Hey, everybody. Welcome to Creators Creating. And I'm here with my co-host, Aubrey. I'm Corey Thorell, and this is our weekly tune-up. And today, Aubrey is going to be leading and guiding us a little bit. Aubrey, what are we doing today?
So today we're going to be talking about the Akashic Records and contracts. And so Susie and Gina, I think, have actually been in the Akashic Records class that I originally kind of created this curriculum for. But I think the refresher is always good. And in the meantime, it's one of my favorite subjects. And it is kind of the key to how I know the information that I do and how you can also know it for yourself. So that's my favorite part about it. Corey, do you have anything you wanted to say about the Akashic Records before we dive?
No, not right off the top of my head. Well, maybe what I'll say like this. When I was learning intuition, when I was studying, one, to turn on my own intuition and to tap into the field of knowledge or the Akashic Records. One of the things I learned growing up when I was little, I always heard about, oh, what is this intuitiveness? There's intuitive people, and I always saw other people being intuitive in their ways. And then when I became a life coach and I was on my own spiritual healing journey, I learned something really cool that gave me a bunch of power. Is that I learned that sometimes people, like with creative visualization, like the old Shakti Gawain book from the 80s, creative visualization, see it in your mind. And I always thought, man, I just suck at that. Wow, that must not be my gift. But then I learned, like, people like Beethoven and Mozart, they didn't see pictures, they heard a landscape of music. Massage therapists and energy workers more have a kinesthetic body experience with their intuition. Chefs and sommeliers are about their nose and their sense of taste. And then I was like, but my superpower with being with intuition was that sixth sense of knowing. Like all my years of designing for show business, I never saw the picture in my head. I just knew what to do. There was a knowing. And then it was like, we all are intuitive. Everybody comes with intuition installed in your experience. But where is your dominant sense that you use first with your intuition? So now this unlocked a big piece of my information. Where, I'm already powerful. It's not that I couldn't see the picture. It's that I was doing it in my way. So then later I started teaching intuition classes about how do we access the field of knowledge? How do we access the Akashic Records? How do we access information that we didn't have that all of a sudden we have? And so I just kind of wanted to give that little preface about we are all intuitive. We all have this already in us. And it's a beautiful experience to figure out where you're already doing it and then practice your skills where you're a little rusty or not so practiced. So there's my introduction there. And Aubrey, I pass the feather back to you.
Thanks, Corey. All right, well, I think we can kind of just get started. Normally we could kind of start with meditation. I would like everybody to kind of ground into their own energy and take some deep breaths. We are going to be meditating a little bit in the middle of this curriculum that the little bit that I'm doing today. But if everybody could kind of, we are going to do a little meditation right now. What was I thinking? I would like everybody to access the root system that we created last week. So we're going to reach down with our roots all the way down to the earth, the core of the earth, and feel that energy coming all the way back up through our toes, up our legs, past our knees, into our pelvis, all the way up to our heart. And now I want you to imagine your consciousness is a string of light coming right down to the top of your head that also meets in your heart. I want you to imagine that string getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I would like you to ask your higher consciousness right now to open your being for better understanding today and and ask the earth for help integrating this information. We're just going to take 2 deep breaths. All right. So the Akasha. So the Akashic Records are essentially the energetic database of everything that has ever happened and will ever happen. Akasha is the Sanskrit word for that holds all, or sky, or ether. The Akashic language is universal. Everybody can talk to it in the entire universe. Everyone in the multiverse can understand when connected to their self and to unity consciousness. So the Akashic records are the record of creator creating, and we talk a lot about creators creating here, and we are creators creating. And if you remember some of our past classes, we've talked about how at the very center of our heart is an infinity symbol, and the very center of infinity is the spark of the original creator. Everybody here and everybody who's watching and everybody you've ever met is the original creator of this universe that is continuing to create. So since we are all conscious creators, making the whole of unity consciousness, all of our consciousnesses together make a collective consciousness. Every experience we have from our perspective lens, so from our avatar, so when I say avatar, I mean like Aubrey is my avatar, Corey is Corey's avatar. You all have an avatar here. That's a unique perspective and a lens that your soul consciousness has chosen and is documented in the Akashic, starting at the point of creation of all, for all. So having a memory bank, which is what the Akashic records are, allows for consciousness to grow. And because it has a reference point for where it has been and what it wants to do or doesn't want to experience for its growth. So the very first universal law that matters in the Akashic records is that we are all one mind and we are all one consciousness. All of us, like the further up you get in your higher self, so that stream of consciousness that's coming down, that we brought in at the beginning of this class, the further up you go down that string, the closer and closer you get to the original source point of all of our different consciousnesses. Our thoughts are what create our reality and our perspective. So when we are interacting with existence as a human named Aubrey, or a human named Chris, your thoughts are what are creating your perspective. And so if you shift your thoughts into a different perspective, what you experience shifts. So the subconscious, our subconscious, so our reactions that we have to things without realizing that we're doing them, it's essentially our supercomputer and the Akashic record of the human vessel. So our autopilot function that has instant recall, like how we can drive home and not remember how we made the turns or what happened during the drive, that's all because we have access. We already have a really deep access to the Akashic record. We already know how to do that. So there's some interesting facts about the subconscious mind. It records everything. It is always alert and awake. Our subconscious never goes to sleep. It controls 95% of our lives. It is built on habituation. It speaks to you in dreams. It has no verbal language. It takes everything literally. It can do trillions of things at once, and it's not logical. It's the feeling mind. It is 1 million times more powerful than the conscious mind, which is why it's so important for us to be going through the healing that we are all choosing into. We have all of us have gathered here together. Go ahead, Chris.
Sorry, I don't mean to distract or sidetrack you here. As I'm hearing about the Akashic record, my mind and my conditioning go to, okay, is this a literal thing or is this a subconscious thing? Sounds like it is very much subconscious, but then you get to, it takes everything literally. I get caught up on the word literal constantly. Can you explain that a little bit, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I don't know that I would actually put that line in this particular graphic. I took this graphic from somebody else because it was mostly right. But when it says it takes everything literally, it means that your subconscious mind doesn't really have sarcasm or like it when it inputs data, when it takes in data, it doesn't there's not really any literal room. It kind of it works in binary. There's a yes or a no aspect to the way that it communicates. But does that make sense? I also don't know that I would have used the word literally. I need to remake that graphic, it looks like. So this inner knowing that Corey was talking about at the beginning of this class is this subconscious mind that we're talking about here. It is our access to the Akashic Records. So there are many ways to access your subconscious mind. You can access it through relaxed states of awareness, through meditation, through breathing practices, through visualizations with direct intent. So that means that you're actually directing your focus like in your mind's eye. You're actually directing your focus to your subconscious mind and which is located in your heart. That's where you're going to find it if you're going to do that. You can ask it questions that way. Binaural beats, so beats that are going on either side of your body is going to help you cross the brain synapses that have both sides of your brain talk to each other and both sides of your body talk to each other, which will help you better access it. Music is a really good way to access it. Light language. So a lot of you have, everybody here has seen the energy work that I do when I'm moving my hands and using my hands to move energy. That is the reason that I'm doing that instead of just talking or just using my mind is because that is light language and it actually clears the frequency and gives me better access to my Akashic Records while I'm doing that works. And it leaves less room for error or for my perspective to taint the energy work that I'm doing. It keeps it clear and pure. Dancing is also another great way to access your subconscious mind. Are there any questions about that so far?
Let me just jump in real quick right there, Aubrey. Doing a lot of the work I've done studying indigenous cultures and ancient shamanisms and spiritualities, there's the two highest forms of prayer, which one of them is singing, which is our vibration. We send our unique vibration out into the world or the way we ask for things. And the other one is dancing, movement as we stomp on the earth. So I see that those things happen here. Like these two highest forms of prayer are the ways that we access our subconscious mind, our superconscious mind. So I just wanted to call that in here. I see that there's a parallel.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They know what they're talking about. Are there any other, I'd love to hear some thoughts. Susie, would you like to say anything so far? Any questions, any thoughts?
I totally agree. I really like humming. That really helps me when I'm going for my meditation. And the first time I did the humming, I really felt the frequency of it, and I got all emotional and choked up. And so I know it was doing something within me. And now, when I have a little bit of time at the end of my meditation, I always like to hum. Loch Lomond. I don't know why that tune comes into my mind, but I just humming Loch Lomond in my mind, and it totally, it does. It just changes everything, and I know it's bringing things in. So that's what sort of comes to mind when yeah.
Yeah. Chris, do you have any thoughts, any questions about this so far?
I would probably agree with Corey about dance. I am the most uncoordinated, ungifted dancer ever. But it's something that I found that I kind of like to do. And this weekend, my wife and I went to an ecstatic dance in downtown Salt Lake, and it was a really fun experience. But I remember something Corey told us about the Japanese dance called Utoa, and I started stomping my feet, just stomping my feet, and I started thinking about my sister who uh, is fighting health issues right now, and I got very emotional as I was stomping my feet and thinking about my sister. And I guess in hindsight, since I don't believe in the religious form of prayer anymore, this was a form of prayer that I was offering for my sister. And it was just a really cool experience. So I get that part. I see how, yeah, that's a form of meditation.
Yeah,
It was cool.
awesome. Thank you for sharing. Gina, do you have any input? You're muted.
Yeah, you never know when that cat's gonna come in yell. I miss dancing a lot, and it's probably been about 5 or 6 years, but I used to be a international ballroom competitor. And and when I stopped that, then I was salsa dancing until I moved here. Pretty much I could go into any club in Los Angeles and know 20 people if salsa dancing was there. But I'll get back to it one of these days. But for now, using my pendulum, I guess, is my best meditation for the moment, and calling in my guides.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep, been having fun these last 2 days with, I guess there's like 3 or 4 planets retrograde right now. So many things are just piling up, and still working on it, Aubrey.
Yeah. We'll talk afterwards. I would love to know how you're feeling.
Anyway, yay.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, I love how much dancing has just come up here, because I feel like it's when a lot of times when people talk about the Akashic Records and accessing your subconscious mind, um, it's there's like a preconceived notion that that means that you need to be sitting quietly in deep meditation in order to access it, and that's not the case. It's something that moves with us. It's part of us. We are, just by our inherent nature of existence, we have access to it's our birthright. There are records. They are the records of our souls and everything that we've ever done or will ever choose to do. So the inside of these records, let's carry on. The Akashic contains all memory of a soul's journey. So that includes lessons that they have contracted to learn, agreements with other souls, and access to all knowledge and information infinitely known by the universe. So when you are let's see. Oh yeah, we'll go to that in a second. So when your soul it works with the Akashic record, it works entirely through something that we call contracts. And we're going to go deeper into contracts in a little bit, but a contract is when there's something about the universe you don't know, you then contract to then go have an experience that will show you what you don't know about it, instead of trying to like learn things like in a rote classroom setting. Our souls are chosen to oh, sorry. Thanks, Corey. I will do that. So when we learn through experience, I mean, I think everybody here has had the experience that you learn better by actually doing something than just reading about it. So the Akashic Records has access to all the information, to all infinite knowledge, and you can absolutely, even here as a human, access the Akashic Records and look up anything that you want to know. However, when you really want to know something as a soul, then you contract to have an experience. And that, like this says, could be either a lesson that you're looking to learn or an agreement with another soul. And those are usually two, like if like the people around you, you have Akashic contracts with, especially your family. Your family is your biggest lesson in this life. The Akashic will show you in the way that works best for you and you only. This for human vessels is generally it's a library, a record book, excuse me, a blueprint. Sometimes it's like a movie screen with an image. Like Corey was saying earlier, it could be just like a feeling or a knowing, depending on your intuitive gifts. It can be you could hear it. It really depends on you and what is going to work best for your system. And that can be kind of confusing for people sometimes because I know people who can just visualize going to a library and opening books, and on the pages is all the information they want. The way that I access the Akashic Records is through a frequency. So when I go into the Akashic Records and ask it a question, I feel a frequency, and I have to then translate that frequency. It's taken me a long time to tap enough into my inner knowing and trusting myself enough to realize that that frequency is actually giving me downloaded information. But at first it was really frustrating because I'd be like, okay, well, I get that frequency, but I don't know what that means. And so the more that you learn how to, and we're going to go a little bit into what can block you from accessing the Akashic Records, but the more that you really tap into your own inner knowing and learning how to trust yourself, the more that you will be able to access the records in whatever way you choose. And the more that you trust yourself, the more you can ask the Akashic Records to come to you in different ways. This right here is the this is the geometry of the Akashic Records. I highly recommend spending some time meditating with this information with that this geometry will give you. If you simply look at it and spend some time breathing, we're going to do that right now. I'm not going to go deep into actually taking you guys into your records because that's something that I know that you guys can do. But I would like all of us right now to just kind of take three breaths together while looking at this geometry. All right, did anybody have anything come up while we were sitting with that? Okay, go ahead, Jennifer. Oh, there's another person, Jennifer. I would have asked for your input earlier, sorry. I didn't even see you. You're muted. You're still muted.
Sorry. Hi, everybody. I'm Jennifer. I was invited today by Corey. Thanks for letting me hop on. I felt like I was kind of creeping a little bit. Sorry about that. So I have a question that came up. I'm familiar with the Akash and have my own flavor of accessing, etc. I'm curious if you have some insight, Aubrey, on the concept around shifting or changing our and other people's records once we access them, and caution or heeding caution around accessing unnecessarily, etc., kind of intervening or interfering, and the structure or understanding that you have around whose records we are permitted to access, etc.
Yeah, I actually do have a slide about that in a little bit, so we
Oh,
we
okay.
will be going into that. Yeah,
Great.
but the short answer to that is you have access to your records, and you cannot access anyone else's records without their permission. And the thing about working with the Akashic Records is they won't actually let you into records that you don't have permission to go into. But yeah, we like, as a general rule, we have access to our own contracts. So we can make or break contracts from at any point. If you're and well, we're about to go to contracts, so I'll go deeper into that in just a little bit. But the other thing is if you have a child who's under 18, you do have permission to go into their records, and you do have permission to help them and get some more information about them. Because of your role, and that in itself is a contract, to be able to do that with our children. Are there any other questions? Okay. So what can prevent you from accessing the Akashic Records? There can be trauma. Trauma can block you, and that really is just because there's an energetic pattern in your body that disallows you from getting the alignment required to be able to access your records. Stored or outdated programs. So that could be from ancestral stuff. That can be from environmental stuff, so like societal stuff. It can be multidimensionality. It can be from other lifetimes that you have lived in, that gave you belief systems that then kind of block you from the purity and truth of the records. Attachments can block you. A lot of attachments are crutches that we use in order to kind of so they're crutches that we use that then kind of stop us from standing in our own power, is what I mean. And so that's why attachments can kind of block it, because you do need to be in your own in order to access your records. Judgments, expectations on what it will look like. And the biggest block is actually the fear of seeing something that you don't like. We are very, very, very infinite multidimensional souls. And if you've definitely done some things that you wouldn't be proud of, I promise. And the thing is, everybody has, but once a soul has kind of done something that they're ashamed of, that can be the biggest block in actually accessing your records, because there's a big part of you that doesn't want to look, because then you're going to have to confront what happened. And when we think of that, when I was like today, when I was deciding what we wanted to talk about today, I wanted to talk about forgiveness in relation to the Akashic Records, especially forgiveness of ourselves, because it's a universal experience that all of us have absolutely been a bad guy. All of us, we have. And so as we're all moving into higher dimensionality right now, forgiving ourselves is really it's really the key. So there's that. And you guys know this already. The only constant in the universe is change. And then you guys just can read that. I want to make sure that I have enough time to talk about contracts, especially since Jennifer brought that up. So let's talk about contracts. Before we move on to contracts, are there any questions about the basic nature of the Akashic Records?
One of the things that I love about this is that when we're working on our lives, or we're struggling, or we're curious, or we're seeking for answers, for me, it's an amazing comfort to know that when I put myself in the right mindset, in the right energy, that I can access the information that I'm looking for. And it's also a curiosity that when I'm not in the right mindset or the right energy, how I can be like, why can't I get there? Which kind of reinforces my inability to access those records. And so it's like that how are you right now? Where are you starting with your curiosity or your desire to access information that you know is there or don't have access to yet in some of these kinds of things? And so I think that's kind of just an interesting little part of our humanity. Like, where are you as you begin to seek? Like sometimes like there's a reason that when we open space or step into away from our busy world into the crucible of what we're doing, just like when we open a circle together here, we ground a little bit, we breathe, we connect to source, we feel the power of life and Mother Nature, and we connect to spirit, something above us. We align our chakras and we open and we take out our trash and all of these things we do to prepare our mindset to raise our vibration and to expand and open. So I just wanted to call in a little bit of that preparation work to set the stage for these aha moments. And I know that Aubrey, we've talked about this when we're working with our clients. I think Jennifer, you probably resonate with this too. When we're working with somebody, we've got a client in the chair, we're working with them, we're using our magic or our gifts, and all of a sudden, because we're tuned in to that presence, we access something that we were not trained to do. We've never done it before. We know it's exactly the right thing to do, and we do it well right then on the spot. Do you guys resonate with that? Yeah. Once again, so we're accessing the information that's needed in the moment. And I love the more that happens in my world, the more open I am to let it happen even bigger, the more trust I have in that process. Any thoughts about that? Especially those of you out there who are healers and work with folks, that tapping into a skill that you didn't have, that all of a sudden you're mastering right when it's needed. Yeah. Yeah. Jennifer. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I think
by the way, so good you're here.
thanks. Thanks for the invite. Everybody, soul, ego, all layers, we all like the invite, right? Thanks for it. So boundaries is what keeps coming up when I have that experience. And in the past, and I've learned the boundary part, to be able to accept and receive in the moment. And then also, I'm getting better at the simultaneous boundary, in a loving way to only receive what is intended for me, because I as Aubrey mentioned, I think, sometimes when we're working with clients or other people and we're not contracted per se, the stuff comes up that we're not, and I don't know if anyone else has this experience. I will get like, oh, wait a minute, sorry, I'm not supposed to tell that, or I'm not supposed to share that kind of a message, or like, crap, I just spilled the beans and I wasn't supposed to, or, kind of thing. So I personally am learning more and more with every experience and encounter about boundaries. And I would love to hear anybody else's take, or Aubrey, your understanding of how better to place boundaries, all the time, energetically, not just when we're accessing the Akash. Boundaries, it's like everywhere. I can't get away from it. Maybe it's just a unique to me soul lesson, but I don't think so.
Welcome, Danielle, by the way. Hi, so
Hi,
glad you're here. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, so I've thought a lot about boundaries lately, and I recently had a really big upgrade kind of in my energetic system, and I have noticed that the biggest thing that I wasn't honoring in the past that would get me in situations where, because I've absolutely had that same experience, Jennifer, where I'm told something from the Akashic Records, and then I tell it to someone, and it wasn't time for them to know yet, and I tell it to them too soon, and it causes some energetic strife that was unnecessary, because and what's lovely about the Akashic Records is they also knew that you were going to do that, and so they allow for that lesson to happen, and they really only ever give you the amount of information that it would be okay for that to happen with. But the more that I have started to honor the law of divine timing, the more that has stopped being a problem. And the more that I allow things to kind of come in like the more I allow myself to vibrate at the level in which the information I'm getting is coming through, the more that I'm finding I'm just sort of traversing the universe as a spinning toroidal field of energy and love. And it's just coming to me, and I don't make those trespasses the way that I used to. But yeah, boundaries could be a whole other class by itself. I totally get it.
I want to add just one thing that pops into my head about this, about boundaries and the right thing happening at the right time. And this is something that some of my mentors from the Circle Way, as well as from the Art of Hosting, which are two pretty big organizations in the world, if you haven't heard of them. But one of the things that comes up in those circles where they create sacred containers of amazing conversation is this phrase, is that the right people always come at the right time, and they say the right thing in the right order without question, and then it is done. And so we are asked in those teachings to assume that to be true and to trust it. Is that the right people come at the right time and they say the right thing in the right order, and then it is done. And when we give permission or acceptance to that process, well, then we can just say, okay, this just showed up. This is right for everybody. That's why it's happening. Kind of like under the umbrella of destiny. This was happening because this was the only time for it. So then when we can embrace some of that, especially collectively in a circle or in a group of people, well, then we can say, okay, a hard piece of information or a shadow story just entered our world. Now we can all look at that with a little bit more confidence to realize that this is the time for this work now. Kind of like what Aubrey was saying, is that it may be messy, it may create a little discord or disruption, but the Akashic Records knew it was going to happen, and they also gave us what we needed so that it can happen.
Exactly.
Yeah, and piggybacking off of that, just the idea that all experiences are co-created. So even if your lesson as a practitioner is to learn boundaries, their lesson that they encounter on account of you breaching that boundary in that part of your journey is fueling what they need as well. And then also piggybacking on off what Aubrey had to say around allowing and trusting divine timing is like, there's never the wrong path. There's the path that you're on, and that's it. Even when you come to a fork in the road and you have to make a decision, there's not a right choice and a wrong choice. There's the choice that you make and the choice that you don't. And in general, your choice might lead you down a more difficult path, but that gives you the opportunity for lessons to integrate more fully, or even to just appreciate fully what you manifest when you finally reach the goal. So just learning to trust that when it comes to working with other people, learning to step back from being proactive about seeking information to give them and just allowing what needs to come forth to come forth. So a couple practices I exercise to ensure boundaries when I work with others is I spend a ton of time preparing ahead of time to make sure that not only are my channels clear, but also they're focused on only information that really serves that person's journey and goal. And then in a more pragmatic way, I spend a lot of time listening to the person and asking questions and being an active listener before I step into their field and work with them, so that I'm very clear ahead of time what their goals for themselves are. And therefore, that is in a sense setting the intention that only the information that serves what they're choosing for their own alignment comes through.
Yeah, love that.
Thank you, Danny. Yeah.
Love that. Yeah, me too. Me too.
All right. Do we have any more comments, or do we want to learn a little bit about contracts before we are done today? You good?
Let's go into contracts.
Okay. Okay. So an Akashic contract. A contract is a soul agreement to learn lessons, and these lessons include where you incarnate as a soul, relationships with other souls and or soul groups, universal laws that you may want to know more about, gifts and skill sets, karmic relationships. So that means that you're with you've contract with another soul in order to help each other learn a lesson. Creational experiments. What happens if I do this? What happens if I do this? Those are contracts in the Akashic record. And shadows. Shadows are parts of us that have been fractured off and aren't integrated into our whole soul system. And those can be, you can contract to create a shadow in order to learn more lessons. So pragmatically, what that means for us as humans, and how we can sort of use this information to our advantage, is that if you're feeling stuck in a repetitive cycle, if you're attached to the same type of relationship, if you have a recollection of a past life experience that is affecting your now, or if you can't seem to break away from you're in a holding pattern, you're in a loop. If you're dealing with an illness that just doesn't seem to ever go away, or if that means, and that includes things like diabetes, like long-term illnesses, cancer, any of those things mean that you're dealing with a contract that you can further examine, and you can clear that contract. If you don't want to experience that anymore, you do actually have the ability to go into your records and shift your contracts. Breaking contracts. So if you don't want to be experiencing something and you want to go about it by going through the Akashic records, it does involve the right timing for the soul. So it's when the lesson is done being learned. And going inside of yourself and doing your self-work to see if you've actually learned the lesson that you set out to learn is the biggest aspect of the contract break. So you can't necessarily just be like, I don't want to experience this anymore, I'm going to just break that contract. Your soul's not actually going to let you. Your soul, your higher self contracted for you to actually fully go through the process and the experience to fully learn a lesson and shift your vibration and shift your frequency. So you do need to actually learn your lesson in order to break a contract. From there, making the connection with the Akashic with intent for the highest and best good of all consciousness and breaking the contracts to the point of creation will clear the agreement and programming. So that means when I say the point of creation, that means that you're going all the way back to source. You're going all the way back to oneness. Otherwise, if you break a contract that's just kind of from here on out, you might still have previous lessons that don't necessarily get broken. So you're still going to have that contract sort of affecting you. Then you can ask the Akashic to reprogram to the original divine unity blueprint. And that blueprint is the blueprint coming from source. I know this is a lot of information. I'm sorry, everybody. But it's the original blueprint from source that is constantly shifting as source is getting updated information, because as we come out and experience, we're actually sending information back to source, and it is constantly updating and learning and updating and learning and growing and growing and growing. That's why we're here. Here's the slide I was talking about, Jennifer. Akashic will not give accurate information unless you have permission from the receiver. Verbal consent is preferred for human ascension, but you can ask source or higher self if you have permission. If you're looking into other people's records. If you cannot get verbal permission, if they're nonverbal or if they're not there. If it's a no and you do it anyways, it will not benefit the receiver. It won't help them. It won't help you, and it's going to be part of your lessons. With intent, you can ask the Akashic for the appropriate record to be broken and follow, as stated above. So, yeah, that's contracts. I think that's it for this class that I'm going to be, for slides today. Do we have any questions about Akashic contracts?
Love the contracts. You know, and especially when we think about our family, our bloodline, and we think about our inner circle of people that we keep close to us for years and decades at a time, we have contracts with them as they mirror our relationships back and forth to one another. You know, but you know, the one of the things that I think about is being creative. You know, like after 30 years of designing and building for show business, you know, where you have to be, we create on demand. The show opens on Friday and we don't have enough time or money or resources, but the show always opens with all miracles in place because of a bunch of people saying yes to something bigger than them, right? And so that creativity, there's a contract for manifestation. There's a contract for opening night, the curtain going out with all magic in place. You know, so I think about creativity, you know, and I think about as spirits having a human experience, we're either reacting to the world or creating in the world, and it's hard to do both at the same time. So when we're being creative and we're in our contract with creativity, like when, like for example, we have a white piece of paper and a brand new box of 64 Crayolas with the sharpener in the back. And what is it that makes that first stroke of color on that blank page? And then what is it that takes the next stroke and the next shape and the next shading? You know, as we create something from nothing. You know, and with art supplies, it's kind of easy to wrap our linear egoic human mind to say, okay, I have a blank piece of paper and some art supplies. But the process is the same for no matter what we're creating. We start with a blank slate and we invest and we make a contract. We say yes and we invest every step of the way. So I wanted to kind of bring in creativity and a commitment to write a contract with who you're becoming. Make it personal for your desires, your highest values, your spirit having a stronger voice more now than ever. How's that idea kind of sitting with you guys? What's sparking as we've got about 5 or 6 minutes left before our hour is up today. Our lunch break is today. Yeah, Jennifer.
Make sure I unmute this time. So I'm curious if or what you think about every action, every creation being actually a contract with the creator outside of ourselves, above and beyond. So would that not indicate that every creation, not just a coloring page or a stage setting or a relationship or, you know, a career, whatever it is, however 3D or literal or figurative it is. What do you think about that?
So my favorite Akashic contracts are my creative experiments. I'm very in contact with my higher self, and I know what type of like multidimensional experiments I have created to put myself in situations. And I think that because we are all the original creator that is constantly creating, I feel like a lot of higher dimensionality and the kind of where we're all moving towards as humans right now is more creative contracts and more contracts to see what it feels like to do this, you know, and what happens if I do this, and you know, and be more to co-create more with original creator source, because it's just more fun that way, and we've all been kind of in a loop. So I think that, yeah, I agree.
I think what's coming into our conversation right now is conscious contracts versus unconscious contracts. You know, because I think everything's a contract in this way. Like right now, like everybody who's here today, we have a contract to be here now in this moment with each other, you know, and we can change our contracts as we grow and shift and invite and create, you know. But I think being awake or being aware that we are aware Boy, I just love that phrase so much. When we're aware that we're aware, that we can rise up and see the bigger picture of my human having a moment. And here's my spirit watching my human having a moment. You know, where we make agreements. Maybe another word for contract is agreements. This contract sometimes has a heaviness to it, especially if there's a lawyer involved. You know, there's a triggering quality to that word contract sometimes. Maybe another word is promise or agreement, or, you know, hey, we said yes to each other. What if we're saying a radical yes together? A different word for a contract. I think what we're doing here in Creators Creating every Wednesday is we're saying a radical yes to fill our thoughts and our souls and our minds and our bodies with energies and frequencies that might be hard to find in our over sensationalized world when we're standing there by ourselves. So we touch this energy, we grow this energy together. So in our last couple of minutes, let's pass the feather around and just talk about your aha today. What sparked your heart today? What did you learn today? What medicine are you carrying out into your day from today? And why don't I just kind of call each other out as I see you in my circle? Susie, you're first. What did you learn today? What's sparking for you?
Well, when Aubrey was doing the slides, and we were talking about blocks, what really came up for me are my past attachments that I had, you know, with my kids, right? Stopping me from being in my power. So that was something that I've been really working on, and that sort of came up for me. The other thing too is because I have lots of kids, being under 18, that you can actually go into their cache and help them. I know one of my daughters has a lot of problems sleeping at night, so it's really really great to know that I could book a session and maybe get that looked at. So that was really great. And I really love synchronicities, and I love, like, Jennifer, you've got that symbol in the background. You know how we were meditating on the Akasha? Yeah. And then I have this little citrine crystal that kind of looks a little bit like that too. So anyway, I just love synchronicities, and I just thought I'd share.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you, Susie. Always good to see you. Danielle. Hi, friend.
Hi, I'm so happy that I was able to join you all for a little bit today. This is always such a nice uplifting break in my day, in days that I really enjoy. I really enjoy this. So if I'm holding myself accountable, my big aha was around breaking contracts, and when you haven't fully done your internal work, that contract's not actually going to break. And I think about all this many years that I was trying to learn so hard these lessons about feeling attacked all the time. And I think I have called in some interesting experiences around, you know, being a victim of voodoo and being a victim of blood magic, and all of these things is like a reoccurring theme, because all those hungry forces want my light. And I was like cutting cords, breaking contracts, and just still getting hammered. And I really finally made progress in being able to protect myself from that sort of thing when I realized I'm just attacking myself. And I really did that internal work, and gosh, there's not really these big bads out there, these dark evil. Everybody's working towards the same end, whether we realize it or not. And just really sat with my own work around those relationships, and all of a sudden the contracts just sort of, yes, you did it, fizzled away. So I hope moving forward I can remember that, and I feel like that concept that I encountered today will help me frame that and keep that in mind when I'm frustrated with not making progress.
Right on. Right on. Right on. Thank you, Danielle. Chris, how you doing, man?
This is interesting territory for me, being so new to this space. I feel like I'm taking a lot of very small steps here. I've heard of the Akashic Records, so thank you, Aubrey, for presenting this. I have learned a lot about it. And it's really exciting to think that I can go back and learn more about my soul and contracts and all this stuff. But my literal mind gets clogged up with like, okay, is this like a VHS tape? You put it in, you rewind it, you can watch the part again, and or is it more metaphorical? You know, this is something you kind of went through, and then when you showed the slide about what gets you stuck, what keeps you from accessing the Akashic record, I'm clear on all of those except for one, and that was expectation, because my literal mind works in this one direction. And it happened to me on my very first plant medicine trip. I had an expectation that was set, and I did not achieve it, and I failed miserably, and I felt dejected. And so that's, I think, a lesson that I'm going to have to learn with these Akashic records is I got to pace myself and learn what I can, take baby steps, little bites out of it. But it sounds freaking amazing when I get there.
Yeah, we could probably spend a lot of time talking about the human tool expectation.
Yes. Yeah.
That could be a whole episode, Aubrey. We should think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then we could turn it over into anticipation, who I think is kind of the opposite attractor energy that's more friendly than expectation. You know? Yeah. Thanks, buddy. Always good to have you here. Jennifer, last thoughts, ahas, what's sparking in you?
Oh, well, I think boundaries are being reignited. And boundaries and contracts seem to both be very prevalent in my experience, for myself and in work with others. Just shows up everywhere. Like I put the glasses on, take them off, I still see them. They're everywhere. So this is a beautiful, divinely timed reminder to revisit what I do and do not know or believe or perceive to know around both boundaries and contracts. And interestingly, synchronistically, I was working on some content around both this morning.
How cool.
And working with a client around both this morning. So you know how it works. So I'm grateful to, again, to have the invite to, to meet and sit in the field of other awakened and enlightened and bright, shiny souls. So.
Well, Jennifer, when you popped in, I was so happy to see you. It was like, yes,
That feels good. Thank you.
Yeah, so happy you're here. Thank you. And Gina, how are you, my dear?
Well, this was, perfect timing as always. I've, the last couple days, I think I put a few too many contracts into the works. And I'm really learning. I was really concentrating today on just going with the flow of how I was able to get things done, including getting here at the last minute. And I really haven't. Well, I went into a little bit of overload last night when the printer wouldn't work when I changed the ink cartridges and the blue won't come through, and I still haven't figured that out. But just little frustrations of things. Maybe I have to update all of their codes with my updated codes. Thank you, Aubrey. Having a little difficulty with that, but I'm settling into them.
Good.
So, anyway, yeah. Contracts and boundaries, it's all fun.
Well, Well, sweet. Well, Aubrey, my dear friend, thank you for bringing your wisdom and your love and your passion for this work into our circle today.
Thank you all so much for coming. This was lovely. This
Yeah.
energy of this class, it felt really divinely timed. I knew exactly what we were supposed to talk about today, so we did.
And once again, if you guys are, thinking about stuff or you want us to dig deeper into anything that we've opened up already, please reach out us and let us know. And we would love to jump in. And, one of the things that I was called, maybe we should do this sometime soon, is there's an intuition practice called Symbol, where we could present it a little bit and play a little bit of a theater game to practice stepping into our intuition skills. Maybe we could do that next week or sometime when we're together. It's a really wonderful way to start playing and trusting with the intuition that we all already have installed. So that might be something that we could do together to practice some of these skills that we're talking about. All right, well, that being said, everybody, we're running out of our time. We're over time. And so I want to honor our Wednesday, our midweek togetherness. And thank you all for coming. And let's make space for each other one more time, many times to come. Thanks, everybody, for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.